What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of the J Rock Show. I'm your host, as usual, Jason J.K. Candell, and it's a great week. I've been in California all week. You got me on the sunny side of the West Coast right now. It's great to be here. I've loved checking out Jalen Snow in UCLA. I have another profile on him coming up soon, so check that out. But it's been a great week in SimWorld basketball. A lot of storylines to go through, but the one I want to start with was Caden Vice's SWBA mock draft from last Sunday, because I know there was plenty of talk, plenty of intrigue about that, and I have thoughts, and I know you all want to hear them. So let's start there, because Jalen Snow omitted from his last mock draft. Now it's at the top 5 going to Toronto. It's insane that you ever thought he wasn't a first round pick, because Jalen Snow, you all know I love him. I think he's the best pure scorer in all of SimWorld U. I know we love Cooper Kinji Cross here, but man, that Jalen Snow, that's no step back. That doesn't play around. And UCLA, 7 straight, just lost to Oregon last night. Just a heartbreaker. But they're still legit. They're still a team I'm really riding for Hoopsteria, because I love teams that have guards that can take over a game at any given moment. And that's exactly what I think Jalen Snow is. Continuing on, a lot of upsets throughout the week. But before we get into more upsets, I always start the episode with JK's or the J Rock Performer of the Week. And let's talk about Lorenzo Phenom. He was my JK's Player of the Night last night. 27 and 15 for Michigan against Maryland. Michigan needed this win to stay on the bubble. Maryland, we'll get into what I think of them after this, but they're not looking great right now. They're on a downward spiral, and I'm not impressed with what I've seen from them. You lose at home to a mediocre Michigan team by 12 points? What are we doing here? Just very, very disheartening, disappointing loss for a team that has no help for Cooper Kinji Cross. I know we give Iowa a lot of flack for not having help alongside Lamari and Sherwood. Maryland's the same thing. And let's talk about Iowa, because they really don't have help alongside Lamari and Sherwood. He gets hurt against Michigan, and now Iowa's in a rough spot. They're relying on Stacey Van Arsdale to run their offense. He's a good player, but he is no Lamari and Sherwood. You lose a Naismith Player of the Year, a future top 3 pick. Their offense can't recover because they run their offense through that guy. Fran McCaffrey has done it with Luka Garza, and he loves to model his offense around his big men. And without him, they don't have the size or the means to respond to that. They only one other big man on the roster, and that's Ryden Robinette. I hope you all read my Monday article about that, because it was tough. This is an Iowa team that's got all the talent in the world to reach the quad, but without Lamari and Sherwood for the next month, they're facing an uphill battle here. They're a good team that I don't know if I ever foresee them becoming great, because once they hit their stride, I think Lamari and Sherwood will be back. It's going to be around 4 weeks, according to Samuel Charles of SB Live, a good friend of mine. You're going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks, at least a month, that is. And big loss for a guy who's one of the most talented players in the country. There's no good way to put it. Lorenzo Phenom, getting a lot of hate for it, but Phenom, I don't think there's any malintent behind it. So I don't understand really what we're doing here. I think it's a little bit BS that he's getting so much flack for what really felt like incidental contact to me. But let me return to that mock draft, because I don't think I really gave enough thoughts outside of Jalen Snow and how much I love UCLA. And honestly, this is a UCLA team that I love. But frankly, there's plenty of prospects I love, and I can't wait to talk about them, because, and Marsh said it, everyone's saying it, if Cooper Kinji Cross is the clear 101, and I'm going to agree with that. But let's talk about this mock draft, because Trey Turner over Jalen Snow? I'm not a Dante Walker guy. He's struggled lately. Georgia Tech struggled lately. And I don't think he's a guy that I would draft in the top 10. He's talented, but Mackenzie Mbako and Bam Wallace and even Glory Tate below him, nah. I even like Nat Hawkins more than the guy. I love this fit for LaGerald Carroll in Oklahoma City. I think they would love a knockdown shooter like that, but there's a lot of picks here where I'm a little bit perplexed. Pooh Lewis at 27, I think that's a top 15 player in this draft. He's a shot creator. I wrote it. I hope you all read that article about his trick shot background because such an interesting, as good of a player he is, and even more interesting and even more humble individual. I will always be a Pooh Lewis supporter. Donald Affetti in the 20s, I don't like that. Even Madison Miles in the 20s feels a little bit low here. I know that we're really high on Tyson Simpson, but I'm not drafting a guy coming off that torn ACL in the top 15. I don't know how he's recovering. I know nothing about him. But the one thing I do love is that I love to see DJ Wagner and Johnny Baldwin in the top 10. Two guys I love. But I think in this March edition, the end of March, I need to see Glory Tate up there as well. However, Mackenzie Mbako to Brooklyn, that is a fit I really like. That Nets team just needs a guy that can kind of take over games and can do a lot at that forward position, and that's exactly what Mackenzie Mbako is. Those are really all the thoughts I have on this mock draft. But Johnny Baldwin and Victor Wembanyama, oh boy, oh baby. We said this about Klingon and Wembanyama in last draft. You pair up, that's a Twin Towers right there. You got the Aaron Fox there, Stephon Castle. That would make the Spurs, I think, a top 3 or 4 team in the West. Just keep making them even scarier. You can't guard Wemby, now you put Johnny Basketball down there? Oh boy. Oy vey, ladies and gentlemen. You will catch me with popcorn in my hand watching that team. But this episode's probably going to be a little bit shorter. I want to warn you all because I've been traveling. I've had a lot going on in the life of JK lately. So I'm going to put this out now and at the end of the episode. Put all your questions down in the media feed down below to ask me. I'm going to do an Ask JK. If anything you want to know about SimWorld U, SWBA, storylines, anything, players, anything you want to know about from me, articles I'm writing, articles I've written, anything that crosses your mind that you want to ask JK about, put it in the comments down below. Because I want to answer all your questions and I want to compensate for a shorter episode today because I love interacting with you guys and it's been so much fun doing this show. So anything you got, hit me with your best shot because let's be real here, JK's bulletproof. But let's keep talking about some of these storylines across SimWorld U. We talked about Lamar and Sherwood. Let's talk about the bubble. My friend Cameron Williams over at CBS talked plenty about some of those bubble teams to watch in Hoopsteria. We had that Michigan-Maryland win. This Michigan team's scary. Phenom and Pizarski, they're a team I think is going to get in, and if they're a lower-seeded team, they're not one I want to face. Same thing with Miami, who's got Bianco and Macklemore. Florida State's hitting their groove. Those are the teams he named. Even Marquette. But Tennessee is another one because Auburn, there's a lot of teams that are below 500 that you do not want to face. You never want to face Trey Turner. So if you're a 5 seed and you got to face Trey Turner in the round of 64, just may as well kiss your round of 32 ticket goodbye. Because he can go for 30 any given night, just dash a team's hopes like that. If Tennessee's defense can get better, they'll be right up there. And I really like Barkley James and this Auburn team. I really loved talking to Benari and Barkley James for that family piece I did on Tuesday. Just such an interesting family, and given the LeVar Ball news, I thought it was such a timely article to write. So I'm really glad that they got to talk to me. And Benari, if you're listening to this, I really hope you are. I would love to have you on the show. Same thing with Justin Bell and Arthur Lattimore. You guys are some of the top freshmen in SimWorld U. I would love to pick your brain. Hit my line about that. But that's just a public thing right there. I hope you've all been tuning into JK's Player of the Night. I know we had the broadcast blackout this week. It was disappointing because there were some great games. But let's talk about who I think is going to win each conference to close out this episode. In the ACC, I think it's Duke, but Louisville is right on their tail. This is a Cardinals team that's tough. You got Lewis, Loftus, and Graham, and a great coach in Pat Kelsey. Oh yeah, this team is the best in that conference, not named Duke. But I think I got to give credit to North Carolina because I think they're pretty scary too. As long as Bam Wallace is cooking, They're a great team, and same with Kasim Porter. Shout out KSJ, KPJ, excuse me. But in the American, I'm riding with Memphis. I don't like this Princeton team. They're in a slide right now. They're concerning, like Georgia Tech in the ACC. They're both just not looking great, and they just took advantage of some weak out of conference schedules. I like Virginia Tech in the ACC too, mind you. I think it's Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. I think Georgia Tech is fifth, and they may not even be top five in that conference, which is a testament to how deep that conference is. Back to the American. I like Memphis and I like SMU. I love me some Cam Jones. Shout out Cam Jones. I would love to have you back on the show, man, before Hoopsteria, but Cam Jones, beast. Maury Washington, beast. SMU with Andy Enfield is right back in it, and I think they're fun to watch again. Princeton hitting a tough stretch, another team that's kind of struggled in conference play. They have talent, but I think people are a little bit too quick to talk about Princeton as this elite team when they're still ahead of their schedule. But even Davidson's impressed me. That's a tough conference because there's a lot of teams that could do a lot of things and make a lot of noise in the American, and that's what makes it so tough. Moving on to the Big East, Villanova. I think it's either Villanova or Georgetown, but I want to give some credit to St. John's because I love that Che King and Keyshawn Shipp duo. If Keyshawn Shipp's playing consistently, I think there's no team in the Big East that can really stop him. But Justin Bell, Heron Lovejoy, give me Villanova all the way. And another team I just forgot to mention in the American is I don't think they're going to win the conference, but I love watching Jackson State, and I would love to see how the rest of their season is going to go with D. Woodley, another team that I'm interested to see how they'll fare in Hoopsteria. But back to the Big East. UConn's been a disappointment. Creighton's been a disappointment. I think it's between Villanova, St. John's, and Georgetown, and then Butler's right below them. But shout out Ethan Letterman and Mark Chisholm, those Creighton freshmen, because they're great too. I love that team. And so I'm going to go Villanova beats Georgetown. In the ACC, I'll go Duke beats Louisville. I'll actually go Louisville beats Duke because I think Louisville's got more guard depth. And in the American, I'll go Memphis beats SMU. In the Big 12, I'm all on the Jayhawks. I love Texas. I got some Longhorn fandom. I have a twin sister that goes there. For those of you who did not know that, but I have to go with the Jayhawks. It's Bill Self. It's Madison Miles. It's Nas Hall. It's Charles Pinkard, the most talented team in the conference by far. And they're hot. 5 straight, and I love me some Texas. They're atop the Big 12 right now. They beat Dayton because of Arthur Lattimore. Between Lattimore, Claudio, they're just a little bit too inconsistent from long range for me. They're a little bit too reliant on the paint game, and if I can see some more from Vincent Magic and those guards, I love Vincent Magic, but I would love to see this Texas team. Like, I don't know how they're going to fare with Kansas, who's just got star power everywhere. They both do, but I'm going to trust Bill Self. I'll take Kansas over Texas. In the Big Ten, now that Lamar and Sherwood's down, it's anybody's conference. Not Michigan State anymore, unfortunately. I felt confident about Maryland, but they're 2-4 in their last 6, and they're headed down the wrong path as well. I'm gonna go with Indiana here. I love Mackenzie Mbako. I like Mike Woodson, and I feel they're the team that I could trust the most right now. So I'm gonna go Indiana over Maryland. But do not sleep on the Wolverines, like I mentioned. I threw up in my mouth just speaking about that. Mountain West could be anybody's. I'm thinking it's going to be between UNLV and Gonzaga. But after Nat Hawkins and the Rebels beat them a couple days ago, I'm going to go UNLV over Gonzaga. I think they'll get there. I think they'll stay alive. In the Pac-12, I'll go with UCLA. Jalen Snow, you know I love him. UCLA over, I'm thinking Arizona. Feels like the low-hanging fruit, but they're the clear two best in the conference, even with the UCLA loss to Oregon. And last, but certainly not least, the SEC. It's what you've all been waiting for. I'm going to go with Kentucky. I think it's between Kentucky. It's very clearly between Kentucky, Alabama, and Arkansas. But I don't trust Arkansas enough. I don't think they have enough outside of DJ Wagner. So I'm going to say Kentucky narrowly escapes Alabama and wins the SEC. But between those three, and none of them would surprise me. Same thing with the ACC, where if it's any of those top 2 or 3, it wouldn't shock me. Same thing with the Big Ten. That SimWorld is deep this year, and you're really, really seeing it. And remember, folks, ask me all your questions in the threads, in the comments, in the DMs. Hit my line down below, because if you guys have any questions or anything you want to know, ask me and I will answer it. I want to hear it. I apologize that there's no guest and this episode was a little bit shorter, but I appreciate you all tuning in nonetheless. Have a great week. And remember, folks, SimWorld, the only place you can see the game, be the game. Have a great week, folks. Don't forget to ask those questions to me.